Vivian Vance and William Frawley won over millions as Fred and Ethel Mertz, the beloved neighbors on I Love Lucy from 1951 to 1957. But despite their on-screen chemistry, Vance couldn't stand Frawley. Their relationship became one of Hollywood's most infamous behind-the-scenes feuds. For years, the real story was kept quiet, but once you learn what Frawley did, it's clear why Vivian could never forgive him. Stay with it, this goes deeper than your average Hollywood drama. You won't want to miss what really happened. When Lucille Ball was putting together her new show, I Love Lucy, no one knew it would become a television icon. They were just trying to assemble the right cast and crew. Lucy had a strong vision and knew exactly who she wanted to play Ethel Mertz. Her first pick was the talented Bea Benaderet. Unfortunately, Bea was unavailable due to other commitments. So Lucy turned to her friend Mary Wicks, who had the skills for the part. But Mary turned it down, not because she didn't want the job, but because she didn't want their friendship to suffer. That kind of loyalty is rare. Meanwhile, Lucy's husband Desi Arnaz wasn't just acting, he was deeply involved in the show's production and was determined to get the casting right. You'd think creating such a legendary show would bring people together, but behind the scenes, tensions were rising. Vivian Vance couldn't stand William Frawley. And this wasn't just the usual workplace conflict, it was intense. But what went so wrong between two actors who played a lovable couple, but couldn't even be in the same room off camera? Stick around, because the truth will change how you see the show, and the ending? It's shocking. At one point, Lucy thought of casting veteran actor James Gleason, whom she had worked with on Miss Grant Takes Richmond, as Fred Mertz. She thought he was perfect. But his salary demand, $3,500 per episode, was too much for the studio, which shut that idea down immediately. Then came William Frawley, a 64-year-old vaudeville veteran with nearly 100 films under his belt. Instead of waiting for a call, he phoned Lucy directly. CBS was hesitant because of his reputation for heavy drinking. But Desi Arnaz stood up for him. To ease concerns, Desi had Frawley sign a contract stating that if he ever showed up drunk, he'd be fired. Frawley accepted, he wanted the role that badly. Not many fans know that Vance and Frawley disliked each other off-screen, and a major reason was their age difference. Frawley was 64 when the show began, while Vance was 42. That 22-year gap wasn't minor, it made her feel like she was cast as the wife of someone who could have been her father. She felt it deeply, and that discomfort grew over time. Things started off civil between them, but soon Vance couldn't ignore what she saw. She was in her prime, youthful, confident, and attractive, while Frawley appeared older, crankier, and visibly aging. She once said during rehearsal, "Nobody will believe I'm married to that old goat." And Frawley heard her. After that, the tension between them only got worse. It's hard to blame her. Here she was, a talented actress in her 40s, paired with a man who looked more like a retiree than a romantic partner. Meanwhile, her close friend Lucille Ball was playing a stylish, glamorous wife opposite the charming Desi Arnaz. The difference was stark. On top of that, the producers dressed Vance in drab outfits and applied unflattering makeup to make Ethel look plain next to Lucy. This slowly chipped away at her self-esteem. Adding to the sting was the fact that Lucy and Vivian were actually close in age. Yet while Lucy got to play the fun, vibrant lead, Vivian was stuck as the frumpy sidekick in a dull, unrealistic marriage. It wasn't just a blow to her pride, it affected how she saw her future in the industry. This wasn't simply about appearances, it was about respect, opportunity, and identity. Being typecast can be more than frustrating, it can crush your spirit. And the audience? They picked up on it too. People started whispering that the Fred and Ethel marriage felt fake, even calling it a miserable, sexless relationship. Vivian Vance certainly felt that. Every time she had to act affectionate toward William Frawley, it was like forcing down sour lemon juice. She outright refused to kiss him. Instead, she perfected the air kiss, those camera-friendly gestures that look real but avoid any actual lip contact. In the episode Equal Rights, there's a scene where they're supposed to kiss in a jail cell. Watch closely. Not a single kiss. Just stiff body language and an eye roll that screams, "I can't believe I have to do this again." And Frawley? He didn't take it quietly. He got petty. He pushed the writers to slip in jabs at Ethel's appearance, lines that mocked her figure, calling it a sack full of doorknobs. Brutal, right? But oddly, it worked. The sharp tension between them added to the show's humor. Their arguments felt authentic because, in truth, they were. It wasn't just acting, it was real-life disdain hidden behind a script. And the audience loved it. But that kind of negativity takes its toll. For Vivian, the issue went beyond unflattering jokes or dowdy costumes. It was the permanent association with a character and relationship she found uncomfortable. No matter how far she tried to move in her career, she couldn't shake off the role of Ethel Mertz, the nagging wife of an older man. That character clung to her like gum on the bottom of a shoe. When she looked back on I Love Lucy, it wasn't just with pride. She saw the personal cost it took to keep that role going. So when CBS offered a spin-off focused on the Mertzes, it seemed like a huge break, a $50,000 bonus on the table. But Vivian turned it down flat. No way. Not even for the money. She couldn't bear the idea of working with Frawley again without Lucy and Dissy around to mediate. Imagine walking away from that kind of payday simply because the thought of working with someone made your skin crawl. That says everything. So yes, Fred and Ethel had amazing on-screen chemistry, but it came at a price. Beneath the sitcom magic was a very real discomfort Vivian lived with daily. That 22-year age gap? It symbolized more than just numbers. It represented missed opportunities, shaken self-esteem, and a career shaped by a role she wanted to leave behind. It's wild how the pain behind the scenes can create such great TV. Makes you wonder what secrets other classic shows might be hiding. We all enjoyed watching Fred and Ethel bicker like a typical old married couple on I Love Lucy, but here's the twist, the tension wasn't just for show. Vivian Vance didn't simply dislike William Frawley. She despised him. And for years, hardly anyone knew the real reason. Fans speculated, gossip circulated, but the truth stayed hidden, until now. So what really happened? Was Frawley truly unbearable? Did Vance overreact? Or was the feud rooted in something deeper than just a bad working relationship? If you think it was just a trivial old Hollywood squabble, think again. Stick around, because the full story is juicier than any sitcom plot. At first, it was just awkward tension. But soon, it exploded into one of TV's most notorious behind-the-scenes feuds. Imagine being on the set of one of the most beloved sitcoms ever, and instead of bonding with your co-star, you're avoiding eye contact, trading passive-aggressive remarks, and counting the minutes until you can leave. That was daily life for Vivian and William. While their bickering on screen entertained millions, off-screen it was anything but scripted. The turning point came when Vivian made a comment, one she may have thought was harmless but still cutting, about not liking being romantically paired with that old man. Frawley didn't take it well. He was furious. And just like that, it was war. Greg Oppenheimer, son of the show's creator, confirmed how personal Frawley took the remark. And things just got worse from there. Frawley wasn't exactly known for playing nice. In fact, he had a reputation for being rough, rude, and downright cruel, especially toward women. Audrey Kupferberg, co-author of Meet the Mertzes, called him a woman hater. Add a drinking problem and a hair-trigger temper, and it's no wonder he and Vivian clashed. At one point, Frawley even used that C word to describe Vivian during an interview. It was ugly. Their feud became an open secret in Hollywood. Everyone on set knew it. It wasn't just gossip, it was written in the air. And yet, somehow, that bitterness turned into comedy gold. Even with all the bitterness between them, they somehow managed to maintain a strange sense of professionalism. they showed up, said their lines, and didn't let their mutual dislike derail the production. Still, you could feel the tension, it lingered in the air. Every scene between Fred and Ethel carried this subtle friction that felt too real to be acting. It was genuine irritation, thinly disguised as comedy. That's what gave their scenes so much spark. Ever seen a couple argue on screen and thought, wow, this is hitting a little too close to home? That was Fred and Ethel. Frawley liked to sneak in unscripted jabs about Ethel's looks or habits, and Vance, who wasn't one to stay quiet, fired back with insults like "Oi fat Freddy." These weren't written lines. They came from a real place of dislike. It was petty, it was personal, but on screen, it somehow worked. Believe it or not, some TV historians think this deep-seated animosity actually improved the show. Their constant squabbling felt so believable because, in truth, it was. The coldness between their characters wasn't just a product of the more reserved 1950s television style, it mirrored the actual disdain they had for each other. And oddly enough, it created something special. Strange, isn't it? Still, there was no chance of reconciliation. After I Love Lucy ended, CBS pitched the idea of a Fred and Ethel spin-off. William Frawley was on board right away, probably thinking of the paycheck. But Vivian Vance? She shut it down instantly. She made it crystal clear she would never work with him again. That was the end of it. No reunion, no staged smiles, just a firm no from Vance, and honestly, who could blame her? This wasn't your run-of-the-mill workplace friction. It was full-blown hostility that lasted for years, ran through all 6 seasons, and is still remembered today. It's the kind of Hollywood feud that scorches the pages of TV history. And it's ironic, really, the couple that had viewers laughing every week, whose chemistry helped make I Love Lucy a classic, couldn't even share a dressing room without rolling their eyes. Yet they stayed professional, did the work, and in the middle of all that bitterness, delivered some of the most unforgettable moments in television. It's strange how toxic dynamics can sometimes produce incredible art. How does that even happen? Maybe that's the weird magic of show business, where love and hate mix, and even the worst pairings light up the screen. The year is 1957, and I Love Lucy is coming to a close after completely reshaping television. It wasn't just a hit, it was the show. It had heart, chaos, comedy, and just enough drama to keep everyone hooked. While most viewers tuned in for Lucy's wild antics and Ricky's charm, there was something undeniably special about Fred and Ethel Mertz. You know the type, grumpy old landlord and his sharp-tongued wife. They were hilarious, always bickering but somehow endearing. So, imagine the buzz when CBS and Desilu Studios proposed a new idea, a spin-off centered on Fred and Ethel. Sounds exciting, right? This wasn't a casual suggestion made over coffee. It was a serious plan. CBS, the network giant, and Desilu, the powerhouse founded by Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, were both on board. Desi even personally pitched it to Frawley and Vance with enthusiasm. What if Fred and Ethel finally got the spotlight? The concept was simple, clever, and loaded with potential. Fans absolutely loved the Mertzes. Their love-hate relationship added another dimension of humor and charm to the show. They were that familiar couple next door who fought over silly things but always backed each other up when it mattered. The producers saw the appeal. Ideas floated around, maybe Fred and Ethel would move to a new city like Los Angeles or Albuquerque, maybe they'd cross paths with familiar characters like Carolyn and Charlie Appleby, or maybe they'd meet new neighbors to bicker with. There was no shortage of creative possibilities. William Frawley, who played Fred, was totally in. He saw the opportunity as a golden ticket, steady work in a cutthroat industry that often sidelined aging actors. In his 70s and with decades of experience in vaudeville and film, Frawley knew how important it was to stay visible in the evolving TV world. This wasn't just a creative chance, it was a matter of staying relevant. Who could blame him for jumping at it? But then, everything fell apart, and it got ugly. Vivian Vance, everyone's favorite Ethel, gave a flat-out no, and it wasn't a hesitant maybe. It was a hard, permanent no. She didn't just close the door, she slammed it, locked it, and tossed the key. And here's the wild part, they offered her serious money. The kind of deal that usually makes people think twice. But Vance? She didn't even blink. Why turn down a sure hit and a massive paycheck? The truth is as juicy as it is sad, she couldn't stand William Frawley. We're talking years of build-up tension and passive-aggressive jabs. There were digs, tension, and genuine dislike. Vivian Vance had managed to tolerate William Frawley during I Love Lucy, likely because Lucy and Ricky were always around to ease the strain, but the thought of working alone with him, week after week? That was a firm no from her. Imagine spending every day with someone who gets under your skin, with no buffer in sight. No thanks. She also didn't believe the Mertzes could carry a show on their own. And honestly, that's a pretty insightful and self-aware perspective. Vivian understood that the magic of I Love Lucy came from the dynamic between all four characters. Fred and Ethel were hilarious within the context of Lucy and Ricky's lives, but as leads? She wasn't convinced. Without the full cast chemistry, she felt the show would fall flat, and she might have been right. But there was more to it. Vivian was also thinking about her future beyond that familiar New York brownstone set. For years, she'd been Luce's sidekick, funny, yes, but always the second fiddle. The punchline. The one in the background. Playwright Kim Powers noted she started questioning herself, is this all I'll ever be? Just the sidekick? That kind of doubt can eat away at someone. It wasn't just about ego. It was about wanting growth, new challenges, and breaking out of the box the industry kept forcing her into. Still, her decision caused fallout. Frawley was livid. And not mildly irritated, he was truly angry. To him, it wasn't just about her turning down a show, it was about losing his shot at financial security, continued relevance, maybe even a comfortable retirement. Considering their already rocky relationship, her rejection only made things worse. Their fragile working relationship went up in smoke. You could practically hear the final door slam between them. And the saddest part? This might have been a landmark moment in TV history. Some historians even compared them to the Ropers from Three's Company, a landlord couple who landed a successful spin-off. Fred and Ethel had the same potential. But their simmering feud meant that potential never had a chance. So this wasn't just a missed opportunity, it became one of television's biggest what-could-have-been moments. All because two people simply couldn't stand each other. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many incredible things never happen just because people can't put their personal issues aside? We'll never know what a Fred and Ethel spin-off might have looked like. Maybe it would have flopped. Or maybe it would have become another timeless classic. What we do know is that behind the laughs and black and white sitcom smiles, there was real tension that quietly shaped the course of TV history. Vivian Vance and William Frawley had nothing but disdain for each other. This wasn't just minor friction, it was deep, long-standing bitterness. When Frawley died, most expected Vance to offer some respectful words. What she actually said shocked everyone. Keep reading, because her cold response left Hollywood stunned. William Frawley passed away on March 3, 1966. You'd think it would simply mark the end of a Hollywood career, but his death also marked the final chapter in one of the most bitter, irreparable feuds in television history. The other half of that infamous rivalry? Vivian Vance, Ethel to his Fred on I Love Lucy. Can you imagine acting friendly with someone for over a decade when you can't stand them in real life? That was their whole dynamic, 15 years of pretending to be close while quietly wishing they were on different planets. And when Frawley's heart gave out at 79, Vance's reaction? Buckle up. According to reports, Vivian was enjoying a meal at a restaurant when she heard the news. You'd expect maybe a solemn nod, a quiet pause, or even a polite "oh dear." But not from Vance. Without hesitation, She raised her glass and announced, "Champagne for everybody." It was jaw-dropping. That wasn't just a reaction, it was a release. Years of pent-up bitterness exploded in that one moment. And it wasn't private. It was loud. It was public. It quickly became Hollywood legend. Before anyone calls her cold, though, it's important to understand where that came from. This wasn't about one argument or a bad day on set. It was years of dealing with Frawley's drinking, his insults, his difficult personality. Working with him had been exhausting. She endured his slow jabs, unpredictable moods, and complete lack of social tact. They say time heals all wounds, but not for Vivian. If anything, the wound just deepened the longer they were tied together on screen. Here's the wild part, by the time Frawley died, the show had been off the air for nearly a decade. 10 whole years. You'd think time and distance might have softened her feelings. But nope. He still lived rent-free in her mind, long after their final scene together. They were connected for years, but it wasn't a bond built on fond memories, far from it. Her reaction was instant and intense, making it clear that just hearing his name still stirred something deep inside her. That pain? Still raw. That bitterness? Still right there beneath the surface, ready to erupt, and it did. It's important to remember they were legendary together. Fred and Ethel Mertz were America's favorite landlords. Their constant bickering had a charm that audiences loved. People assumed their on-screen clashes were just clever comedy. But behind the scenes, it was anything but. That tension was no performance, it was the reality of two people barely tolerating each other, masking their disdain with impeccable timing. It's wild to think about, really. One of television's most cherished pairs couldn't even meet each other's eyes off set. It raises a haunting question, how deeply must someone wear on you, day after day, for their death to feel like a relief? And what does it take to hold on to that level of anger for so long? Vivian Vance never got closure. There was no heartfelt reconciliation, no softening over time. Just deep, unrelenting resentment. Her famous champagne toast wasn't some offhand insult, it was the final statement in a battle she never chose but was forced to endure. Imagine being professionally tied to someone who drains the life out of your days for 15 long years. That's not just job stress. That's emotional warfare. And what's even more heartbreaking? They never made peace. Not even a glimmer of it. It's tragic when you think about it. Two people who helped shape television history, who brought joy to millions, were so unhappy behind the scenes. The public saw the magic, but never the storm that raged in private. That unfiltered champagne for everybody moment ripped the curtain down. It wasn't just a joke, it was years of frustration unleashed in 5 cutting words. So yes, William Frawley's death may have passed quietly, but what came after? That was loud. Vivian Vance's reaction spoke volumes, raw, unapologetic, and final. She wasn't going to carry that grudge any longer. She let it go in the only way she knew how, and with brutal honesty. And honestly? It may have been the most candid goodbye Hollywood had ever seen.